This podcast is part of the No Phony Podcast Network, the home of independent awesomeness.
All right, welcome back to another episode of On the Road with Jim and Casey. Joining me, as always, James Morganti.
That's right.
Joining us today, actor, author, producer, and 10th degree black belt Grandmaster Darryl Vidal. How are you doing, man?
Great to be with you guys.
It's good to have you, man. So everyone knows you from the Karate Kid Part 1, of course. You lost to Johnny Lawrence in the semifinal tournament. And anyone that knows anything about karate, they can definitely see that you were really the skilled fighter in that fight, in that movie, really. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with martial arts?
Well, I mean, I'm Asian for one thing, right? I grew up in the 60s and 70s in San Diego. I was a Navy brat, Filipino, and I think by nature, especially in those early days, with kung fu movies starting to become very popular, I was naturally attracted to martial arts. And so, when I lived in San Diego, I didn't study that much while I was there. I did meet people. My parents used to go to a gentleman who they call a faith healer, but in reality, in old Philippines, they have these guys who kind of are like they make lotions or mixtures that they rub on your skin, and they do certain types of massage. I found out later after talking to him when I was older that really like a chiropractor, a bone alignment type guy. But he used to do eskrima, and so that my first exposure was, seeing them do, some stick fighting, which I still do today. And then later, my older brother started taking karate at just some guy who was teaching out of his garage, and then he would come home and there's three of us, three boys, and then he would come home and teach us, and that was kind of like my first experience. But I did notice that I took right to it. I mean, the movements were natural for me. I liked it, and then go along with that, watching the kung fu movies, Bruce Lee and stuff, really had an attraction to me. So in the early 70s, we moved from San Diego to Chino, California, which is today it's part of greater Los Angeles, but back then it was a kind of a rural town in an hour or so outside of Los Angeles, and it was mostly white and Hispanic. So I think I was like the only Asian guy in my whole middle school when I moved there. So we would still watch the karate movies, and then eventually through our Parks and Rec department in Chino, I signed up for karate with my instructor Joe Rosas, who's still my senior master, and started training with him and doing a lot of tournaments as I got up in rank. That's how it all kind of came about that I got pulled into the movie.
What drew you? Like, I took karate maybe for like a year or something like that as a kid. I always liked basically any sort of flying hurricane kick, and I just loved anything involving spinning, twirling, Ryu, Tatsumaki Senpyukin, anything that's helicopter. And I was like, so cool as a kid. And I'm kind of like, I'm 6'2". I'm kind of I have like long legs, and I was like kicking and like the kicks. Like I hated actual discipline, I guess. And and like the meditation because I would shake and my body couldn't stand still. But what drew you in? But now actually when I meditate, I shake now still. Like when I'm really deep, I'm like, I start to like have
Right.
this weird thing. But
Right.
but what drew you in? Like, was it to know how to fight, or was it like basically like some sort of move that you wanted to learn? Mine was a
Well,
move.
yeah. I mean, I think you know, when you're growing up, you know, and become a teenager, you become more physically aware of what your body can do. And since I had been exposed to the martial arts and then started taking it, I took right to it. I did like the discipline. We didn't really do, you know, meditation per se. So I liked the training. I liked the sparring and fighting. You know, confidence wise, it's a great confidence builder. I liked everything about it. And just studying about Bruce Lee, learning about Bruce Lee. This is, you know, in the early '70s. So it was when he was at his peak with Enter the Dragon, you know, those movies coming out. And then after he passed, you know, he was just such an inspiration that, you know, kind of dive headlong into everything Bruce Lee, you know, read the Tao of Jeet Kune Do and learn about Danny Inosanto and all the people that we associate with. You know, I wrestled in high school and I did Wing Chun. You know, I sought out Wing Chun people because they're few and far between at the time. But I, you know, learned from different people Wing Chun. Boxing, I boxed for 3 years in my high school days. So I just kind of immersed myself in different types of martial training. And yeah, I mean, like you said, so I wasn't like a mainstream sports kind of guy. So, you know, I kind of went to wrestling and boxing and the karate really was kind of my main thing and kind of still is, you know.
Everyone that knows me, I've never been into a fight. I'm actually
Okay.
like the cooler. Like I always use my kind eyes, and I'm like, hey, gents, let's look into each other's hearts and see what's the problem. Like
That's a good thing.
I've never been punched or anything except by this one girl, and she was dating me, and she was berating me over something, and I just said, oh, you know, I said something stupid, and then a woman has punched me that I was dating once, but she was angry, which I'm never angry. Anyway, aside from my personal failed relationships over and over, what do you think is you took boxing, you said wrestling a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I wrestled for 3 years in high school. I boxed. I did the Wing Chun and stick fighting is the other main thing.
And Wing Chun is that's what like the movie stars use a lot. I noticed.
Yeah, I've seen that both. This guy that played Sherlock Holmes,
Robert Downey,
yeah, Robert Downey, and
Jason
also
Statham, right? I think he does too.
I don't know about him, but Matt Damon also they trained
Yeah.
in Wing Chun. Just
But yeah,
you know, you can see it when they do their moves.
right. And my thing is, like, whenever I would notice something happen, I'm always like, man, I never know who's going to be a fighter at a bar. Like you're at a bar or a restaurant and something's going down. You know, there's something happening. You have some sort of woman next to you or whatever, and you're like, all right, babe, mentally we got to just beat the situation. And I never know who's going to be an amazing fighter. Like, what is your go-to? What do you think is the most effective? I know you can master everything and everyone's great in some way, but I always felt wrestlers and boxers were like on the street, like first thing, like you know, street fighting, anything goes. Do you feel
Right.
like what's your thoughts on like?
Well, you know, it's a complex question because I teach a lot of self-defense classes, self-defense for women, you know, martial arts. We do a lot of sparring. So you always get into this discussion about, you know, who's really bad and is it BJJ? Is it mixed martial arts? Is Kempo? You know, so it is a convoluted discussion. You know, personally, my opinion is on the street or in a bar, you know, all the rules are gone. There's no rules. So, you know, the person who can get out of a situation or not, you know, totally avoid that situation first is going to be, you know, better. Once you get into that situation, though, you know, I think, you know, learning how to punch from a boxing standpoint is probably the best way to steal on somebody and knock them out or something like that. Because people who don't train, you can knock them out pretty easily. You hit them in the right place on the jaw, and they're
Right.
going to go down. But a person who trains, on the other hand, you're not. You're not going to, one, you're not going to steal on them, and two, unless you blindside them, and two, they're going to have experience in taking a punch and probably, either shake it off or it's not even going to phase them. And you can tell these guys, you can tell a fighter, in his shoulders, even in his look, and that can even become a problem because you get some of these guys that, it's become their life, and they decided that that's the way they're going to be around other people. But I'm kind of like you. I'm the opposite. I think a lot of training for a long time, and not that I'm that badass. I'm really a very nice, calm person. And if it came right down to it, I'd probably get out of the situation because I think I have the right temperament as well. But it would be short, kick you in the groin, poke you in the eye, something to me.
Well,
Right.
after watching some of your videos on YouTube, even though you're a nice and well-mannered guy, I would not want to mess with you.
I'm short too, so.
Yeah, we just right before you came on, we watched the video you have on your YouTube channel of you knocking that guy out.
Oh yeah,
the two. Was that a heart punch, the first one, or what? Did you hit him in the chest?
No. So just to give a little context, that is a black belt test. Okay, and in our system, the black belt test is like 4 hours long, and at the very end, you have to spar with a bunch of black belts, and they want to test you. We're there to test your mettle. See if you won, if you can protect yourself using the art. We stay inside the rules. We're not going to grab each other, roll on the ground, and do anything like that because it's not our system. It's a stand up type of karate that we do. So at the end of the black belt test, you have to fight all these black belts. I'm the senior belt. I get to go last. So this guy's been testing for 4 hours. He's dead tired. He's just probably sparred with 6 other people who are trying to waste him. And then I get up, and so I just try to pick my shots. I want to see. And actually, there's a pretty good story behind this. But the first shot is kind of hidden by the camera, but it's just a stomach punch. And what I do is I have this punch called the twister, which when you do a karate punch, you kind of turn it over like this.
Yeah.
But what I do on the twister is a couple things. One is, if you watch close, you'll see that I change elevation, so I drop down, which kind of changes my ranging and my targeting. And then when I throw the twister, I throw it, but I twist it down as I hit you. So I'm trying to hit you in the belly button and drive it down to your rear end, and it really hurts. It's not just a regular punch in the stomach. I mean, I'm literally trying to get you to crap your pants, because it's hitting down into your stomach. And so that's what that first one is. And then the second, I only hit it twice.
Yeah.
Video. But in the second one, you'll see that as soon as we line up, I switch to the other cover. So I'm on the left side now, and his hands are low, so I just take advantage and throw the kick.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I want to mention it, because just again for the context, this is a 4-hour test. You guys are not like career martial artists, but when you're testing a guy for his belt and his karate, one of the things is the ki, the yell, and the ki is real, right? It's your internal power. It's the tightening of the shell of your body, the hardening, the expulsion of air. And the thing that I noticed about him during his test was his ki was kind of like not really. It wasn't real. It was a ki that came out of his vocal cords instead of something that comes out of your gut. And so I was making the point that you're testing for your black belt. A ki is just demonstration of the power of your internal power, and I don't think it's working for you. If you got hit, you probably gas. So that was kind of the first thing in my mind. And then the other thing was throughout the whole testing, his guard was low. I had to put his hands are down here. And, our system is, we have face shots are legal, of course. So I noticed his hands down. So the minute he went to that low stance, I just hit him in the head with that. So it was two things that I mentioned to him during his test. So I had to make the point.
I couldn't tell if when he, because that was like the biggest thing about, I mean, I loved Ki-Eyes in karate. And it also can save you, because when you get hit, if you know, and I didn't know if he, did he, was that, I couldn't tell. I was like, because I saw you punch him and Casey said that might be a heart punch. And I heard his yell and I thought, was that maybe a Ki-Eye or was that him going, ugh? Like,
yeah,
was
it was both. It was my Ki-Eye because I give a, and then he went, yeah.
Right. Okay.
What, Darryl, what was I noticed that during that little it was only about a 3-minute video that you have your hands down a lot during that also. Is that something, is that a technique that you use? Or
Well, yeah, I mean, basically if you're confident in your fighting, you drop your hands, you're going to try to lure him in to try to make a move. Yeah, if I was fighting a real fight, my hands will be up here.
Sure.
Because, somebody's going to nail you right in the face.
Sure. So did he pass his test?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. All right.
He did everything throughout his test was fantastic.
Okay.
So
Cool.
definitely.
Cool. So let's get into the Karate Kid. How did that come about? I heard you kind of did the same. I forget what Sean. We talked to Sean Kanan, your buddy. And the I forget what he called it. The where everybody's waiting in line outside for the
casting call.
Yeah, the casting call. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have that. Mine is kind of like a true Hollywood story because.
Oh, okay.
Even though, in my younger days growing up, I could imagine, hey, I could be like the next Bruce Lee, I could think like that. But getting into adulthood, figuring out about finishing high school, where am I going to go to college, I kind of lost all that and said, I still was training. I always trained, but I kind of didn't think that I would go to Hollywood and become a movie star. So I'm about at this point. I'm 20 years old. Got my black belt when I was 18. So I've been in tournaments and competing actively, probably 5 or 6 years now. Kind of, they didn't have a ranking system, but if you go, I've come home with a couple trophies, so I'm competing in a tournament in Southgate. And I had just done the kata competition, which is usually earlier in the day. And my kata had as many flashy moves as I could put into it. So James talked about, jumping hurricane kicks and stuff like that. I put all those in my kata, and it was untraditional back then. In the 70s, you kind of used the kata that your school taught you. And then I kind of came in and said, I'm going to add all this stuff in there. So I'm coming in with, completely made up katas, and just kind of blowing a lot of people away with, because, those moves, you see now people do parkour and all their acrobatics. And, I could never do what people do today. But back then, those wheel kicks were kind of a big deal. So I put those, I had those and, jumping backspin and all those type of things in that kata. Finished that. Win the division, and the director, John Ableton, comes up to me and says, how'd you like to be in a movie? So it was like, of course I want to be in the movie. And the rest is history. They gave me a phone number, start going down there for rehearsals. There was no casting call. They just wanted me. They were scouting. They just said, let's put this guy in the movie. So that's kind of how it all came about.
That's awesome. And I was telling Jim something that a lot of people don't know, that you actually double as Mr. Miyagi in the film.
That's right.
In the famous scene where he's on the beach during the crane kick.
That's me. That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How that came about? You are also the inventor of the crane kick, right?
Yeah. It's funny because a little background. The writer of the Karate Kid is a guy named Robert Mark Kamen. Great guy. You can find about him on YouTube. He also has written umpteen other movies. He's really a great writer. He did Taken, by the way. So meet him early in the whole thing. They kind of scouted me for my karate abilities, but I learned early in rehearsals that they have this concept of the crane kick, and so I can recall being in a room in one of the sound stages with Pat Johnson, John Albiston, and Mark Kamen. 20 years old, I don't really know anything, but these guys are legends. And they say, okay, well, part of this movie is, we have this technique called the crane technique. The idea is that the kid has a hurt leg, gets his leg injured. And so we want to have this technique where you stand on one leg, and then you jump and kick and land on that same leg. And I said, well, okay, sounds interesting, but after we rehearsed it for a while, I kind of convinced them that it doesn't work that way. You kind of have to raise one leg, kick, and then land on the other leg. So if you watch the crane technique, you'll see that I start out low, I come up high, and then I kick and land on the opposite leg, and then I switch back real quick so that hurt leg is kind of, I'm not standing on it. And so they introduced me to this idea. We wanted to do this kick, and we also need you to do something with your hands. So I made this part up. They talked about putting your arms out to the side, and I'm like, well, why would you ever do that in a fight? You're totally exposed. And they said, well, that's it. That's a crane technique, so you got to do that. So, okay, I take this little Wing Chun stance and drop down and get the arms out, just like they wanted to do the kick, and land back down into the crane stand, and on top of the stump.
That's crazy. On the set, are you pretty much one of the only guys that has a martial arts background?
In terms of the cast, myself, there's two other black belts, Pat Johnson, the referee, and Ron Thomas, who plays Bobby Brown. He was already a black belt in jiu-jitsu at the time. So both he and I are black belts. Nobody else. I mean, no training at all.
Yeah. So are you helping like choreograph a lot of the fights throughout the whole movie?
It turned out that I did help out. I mean, Pat was in charge of everything, but being there while they're rehearsing, and Billy Zabka, a very athletic person, so I could pretty much go with him, and I could kind of spar with him. We never really sparred, but he would get it, and so there's a few moves that I helped choreograph. Like if you remember, where Johnny's fighting somebody and he grabs his arm and kicks him. He kicks him twice, like a fake kick and then a kick.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I had helped him because he could do it. And so there were a couple of fights that way. Of course, my fight with Johnny, we had that choreographed completely.
Did Ralph Macchio land on the same leg?
Yeah. Yeah. If you watch it, he injures his left leg, right? I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but he goes up. He does the crane stance. The left leg is in the air. He jumps. He kicks with the right leg, and then he hits and then switches real fast. So basically, he does it the same way.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. That's I mean, you think about it, like it might work. You never know what's going to work in a situation. I guess maybe not the flailing hands. So I mean, like I would probably play dead. Maybe if or I would be like, oh, there's nothing you can do. And then I get wrapped up around their legs while they're kicking me or something.
Well, you're so tall, you wouldn't have to jump. You just throw your kick out there.
Right. Yes. That's why I was always scared of like if a fight would happen of a wrestler because my arms are really long, and not only that, they actually are both double jointed. So my doctor as a kid, he was like, yo, you can break your arms pretty easily because look, so most people's arms stop there. Mine go, they go the opposite way.
Yeah, so they call that double jointed, but what really is you have very flexible tendons, so
Yes.
that you're hyperextending your elbow. And if that doesn't hurt, it's true that you could, break. It could break, but I would tell you at 6'2", you're borderline to where you're very difficult to fight with. When you got to get 6'3" and 6'4", and you get someone who's athletic, it'd be very, very hard to fight with somebody like that. Especially, I'm short. I'm 5'6", so it's almost like I really have to go after somebody if I'm going to try to fight them at that height. So 6'2", you're borderline. I would, if you were early in your training, I wouldn't be too worried about sparring with you. But if you were, a black belt for any amount of time, I would be very wary about somebody at your height and your build.
Yeah, I just always felt like someone was gonna grab my arm. Like I go to throw a punch, like, hey man, get your damn hands off her, and then I'd be like, hiya, and then they'd like just grab my hand, break, and like do one of those like sidestep, and then punch your arm, and my elbow goes in. No, my guitar strumming hand. How dare you?
It's funny you say that because our system Kempo, one of the most basic techniques is to take that and strike that elbow.
I told you, I knew it. I could sense it. And that's why I'm like, no, I'm going to keep my arms in. What can I do? I was like, I have to use my gentle nature and my kind, warm heart and just talk them out of it somehow.
That was something that we would make Jimmy do in school, in grade school. That you should feel privileged. That's the first time anyone's seen it on our podcast.
Right.
So, Darryl, tell us a little bit about this Filipino stick fighting. What?
Sure. So I call it by a generic name because I've studied with like 6-7 different people, and they have different names. Like the three basic names is Eskrima, Cali, and Arnis. So they're different kind of systems, but I haven't learned them discretely as separate systems. So I just call it Filipino stick fighting. But the concept is it's a completely different type of martial art. In fact, I don't even encourage my karate students to learn it until they're black belts, because it's so different from karate that it would almost hinder your karate, or it's just too many diverging concepts. But the main difference between Filipino stick fighting, or Eskrima, just to use that name, and karate is karate tends to be form based. We have a form, you have a stance, and stick fighting is flow based. So you're working off of a momentum that is based in a stick. You do with single stick or double stick, but once you learn the concepts, you can translate it to anything. So knife fighting tends to be a natural progression of stick fighting, is learning to use knives, and then obviously anything can become a weapon in that respect. So short knives, long knives, swords, and then empty hand. So those are kind of like all the aspects of that.
Yeah, it's true. I always enjoyed watching those types of fights with the stick fighting.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff out on YouTube nowadays, and I can tell you that there's a lot that I don't think is helpful, because it looks like they're just clacking sticks like this. It's fast, but it's like, okay, one of the concepts of stick fighting is you have this light stick. It's not a heavy stick; it's a light stick. It's rattan, 28 inches or so long. And the concept is not that I'm going to hit you with the stick and knock you out. The concept is I'm going to hit you in the joint or in a fleshy part of your hand to destroy your joint, or to pummel the flesh. Okay, so I'm going to hit you like 3 times across the head, and it's not going to knock you out. It's just going to turn you into a bloody pulp. Okay. Similarly, the first target I'm going to go for is your fingers, and then after I disarm you, I'm going to work on the joints of your arm, and if you still want to come after me, then I may decide to go ahead and hit you in the head or take you down or do whatever else follows along. But it's all a flow progression that it's based on.
Are there any videos of you doing that on your channel?
Yeah, if you go to there's a couple different YouTube channels because I did one in an old email. So, but if you do search on just Darryl Vidal, you'll see there's some. I have more stick fighting videos there than I do karate videos. So yeah, you'll see me with different things doing pattern drills or other stuff. There's not a lot, maybe 4 or 5.
And that's one of the things that you still teach, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool. And you're a 10th degree black belt. Is that the highest that you can go, or are there still more steps?
Well, I don't know. There's people out there that have different claims to their ranking. And it's interesting that you ask, because ranking is a very, very difficult thing to talk about in the martial arts with some people. For me, I don't have any problem with it because I've got all 10 of my degrees from my same instructor. He's our grandmaster, our founder of our system. I've been with him since the early 70s. I got every rank, and for us, you don't have to test for each rank. You test for your first ranking, and then after that, it's 3 or 4 years of constant teaching and training. So if you're teaching and training, he has a hierarchy of belts, and so the people that are continuing to help teach move up the ranking, after so many years. So for me, 30 plus years, and he's ranked me at every rank all the way up to 10th, which was in 2012, I believe.
Wow.
So yeah,
so the 10th is the highest then,
for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Us. And it's for most. I mean, I don't know of many other arts that have an official ranking system that go beyond 10th. If they do, I would kind of question it. I wouldn't say anything else, above board, but in my mind, I'm saying, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you get 11th degree?
And
promoted you?"
And so you're saying, like, you stayed with the same guy since the early 70s. Are there other people that claim to be like 10th degree black belts, but they've had maybe 10 different teachers or something like that?
Okay, yeah. So just between us, right, and your listeners, anyone who says they're a 10th degree, I would be skeptical, because who is going to promote them to 10th degree but another 10th degree, right? Mm-hmm. So I know several who are 100% real 10th degree black belts. I've known them for 30 plus years. They're mostly in the Kempo system, not my Kempo, but an American Kempo. So I do know a lot of other 10th degree black belts. But a lot of times, once you start to get 5th and 6th, most people's instructors aren't around anymore, and so they'll go to somebody else. And I don't want to be nasty about this, but they'll go and pay somebody to get their next ranking. Okay. And some of them will just take the money and rank you, and others will, if it's a different system, how do you test them? So, it becomes, one of these weird, difficult to talk about things. And then, you'll go out there, if you're out in the martial arts world, you'll see these people who has, 5th degree here, 2nd degree there, 10th degree here, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, that's good. I'm glad for you.
Yeah. So with the new Cobra Kai series, your name has already been mentioned in the series. Has there been any talk of any appearances by you at all?
I don't know. Okay, here's the funny story. In season, when they started, before they did, season 1, when it was first coming out, and heard rumors that they were doing something, they contacted me, and made me sign releases because they use footage from Karate Kid 1 in season 1.
Mhm.
So I think it's in the first or second episode you see a very quick flash of me doing those, I think, jump kicks or whatever. There was something out of one of the fight sequences that they used. And then they also used the crane technique. So they had to get my permission. So when I signed those releases, I'm saying, hey, I still train. I'm still here. I'm in Southern California. Funny story is I sent them that video that you referred to. I said, here's a video of me in action, just, so they know I can still move. And then I also told them I look like Mr. Miyagi now.
Well, you already played him once. I mean, you played him when you were 21 years old.
That's right.
Yeah.
So beyond that, they mentioned it in season 2. They know where to find me. We're friends on Facebook. I try not to put any pressure on them because I think they're doing great writing, and I don't want to bias the whole thing.
Yeah, the series has been great.
I just wanted to go back for a second to the 10th degree black belt stuff.
Yeah.
What's harder? Is it harder to get that black belt, because you said it was 4 hours and then you have to fight all the masters there, and then is each first degree, second degree, are each of those equally as hard as getting the black belt, and then is the 10th like you need to spar like everyone in China? Is it like the hardest, or what's harder?
Well, I mean, I think the 4-hour test is draining, but it's a one-time deal. So, if you train enough, get ready. I mean, you're literally training, for 4 or 5 years to know all the material, but intensively for 6 months. So it's like going to the Olympics or, doing anything where you're preparing, running a marathon. You're literally getting yourself ready for this time, for this one event. So, and for me, martial arts has always just been my way of life. Since I've started training, I've always trained. This is my biggest low right now because of COVID, where I'm teaching online classes, which is just nutty. But to answer the question about each belt, so we don't test after that. It's teaching and training consistently. Now, different systems are different. Some systems will test you through second, third, fourth, or whatever. And some don't test at all. So it's just really all over. It's all over. And in terms of having to fight somebody, it's really for your first degree test where you are pitted against everybody else. After that, you get to fight any other upcoming black belts. It's almost like gang initiation,
Oh, okay. Okay, so then when you get the rankings, because I forget, I was so young when I took karate, and but I do remember the twist punch. I as soon as you said, because I don't know why it's ingrained in my memory. Ich ni san shigo roko,
there you go.
And then the ki, and I love the ki stuff. But when you get the rankings for the after black belt, are they tests too, or are they just kind of?
Not like I said, not for us. For us,
Right.
It's just about time, teaching, and training. So if you continue teaching, assisting, take up your own school, and continue training, you'll get ranked. And so, for me, it's important to continue training because, I got to be careful who I say this around, but I don't want to be one of those big fat heavy karate guys, they're this giant belt, but they're like this. So it's like I'm, maintain my size, maintain my movement. I would tell you that I could still hang with black belts. The endurance wouldn't be there, because I couldn't go for like 5-minute rounds or anything like that. But the whole point would be to steal on you and finish it early anyways.
So Darryl, after The Karate Kid in 1984, your next movie wasn't until 2019, Bullets, Blades, and Blood. What did you do in between there?
I just got a job, got married, finished school, had 4 kids. I really didn't focus on anything Hollywood. After the Karate Kid, I had one audition that I had lined up. It was for a movie called North Shore, where they needed a Hawaiian guy. So I didn't get the part. And after that, I kind of said, this is not for me. And I got married and started working and started my career. So the whole Bullets, Blades, and Blood is an indie movie that a friend of mine is working on, and it's not done. So
okay.
yeah, I can't really say, that movie is out there or anything like that, but it did make IMDb, because he did what he needed to do to get it on IMDb, his cast and all his rights and all that stuff. So it is a real production, but I haven't been back to film anymore, outside of one day's worth of filming.
Okay.
Hey, well, you're busy. You're living life, man. Getting married, having kids. That's the dream, man. That's what it's all about. You don't gotta tell me twice. Real quick before I do my last advice question or advice time. What's that backdrop that you have behind you? It looks.
Yeah, that is. I have a couple different ones. Let me just show you another one, because there's a story here. But here, let me show you this one first. So this is my karate logo, and it's our Kempo system. So we have the eagle and the dragon, and so that's on the back of our gis. It's on all our paperwork and stuff like that. So that's our logo, and it says Vidal Kempo Karate on it. And then I don't know how much you guys know about American Kempo Karate, but the great master of American Kempo Karate is a man named Ed Parker. You guys heard of him? He was one of Elvis's bodyguards, and his karate instructor and his bodyguard. So he's the founder of American Kempo, and his son is a fantastic artist. So I went and I got with Ed Parker Jr. was his name, and I said, "Hey Ed, I want you to update my logo." And so he took that eagle and dragon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing artwork. So I use this logo on my certificates. So when you get a belt from me, that logo is on the back of it, and it's done by Ed Parker Jr., which has its own little mystique going with it.
Very cool. Do you have any merch or anything that anybody can buy with those logos on it? T-shirts or?
Well, I put them on my gis, our karate gis, so all my students will have not this one, but the other logo on the back of their gi. I never thought about, I didn't think anybody would ever want one, but
they look cool though.
Yeah,
I bet I know one person here that would buy one. I definitely would.
Every now and then we make the shirts so that we can give them to our students. So I've got shirts, I've got blank shirts. I guess I could make them available if somebody's interested.
Casey, I'm large when you.
Yeah, I know.
The karate that I took was Kempo karate. We're in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you know anything. I think was Bruce Dillman. I forget if he was, but I went to a Heilman karate. That was Kempo.
I think he was a temp.
What's that?
I think he's a temp.
Dillman,
yeah.
Really? Oh, you know him?
I know of him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's right from our area, right here where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, he does that no touch knockout stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? I can tell by the way you're.
How do I feel about it? I live in the real world. How's that?
Yeah, I can tell by the way you were laughing.
I'll tell you
All
what.
right. Hey, Darryl, thanks, dude. This has been so cool.
Wait, he had something here for us. He had something about the.
Yeah, I don't know if your time is up, but
No, we're good.
You can no.
Okay, if you really search if you put my name in YouTube and search around and drill all the way down, you'll find a video called Telekinesis, and I do a little bit of a telekinetic thing. Let me see if I can Let me see if I can show it to you.
Wait a minute. Is it anything like? And I was going to ask this earlier, and just remember, there's no such thing as a stupid question. But I love Dragon Ball Z. It's my favorite show. Can you? Not that I'm saying can you sense someone's power level, but you said you could see a fighter. Is that kind of like sensing the power level?
There's a couple things that go with that, and one thing is you can tell any career martial artist can tell by the way somebody stands in their fighting stance if they know what they're doing, and that's why the Karate Kid is so bad. Because even today you see the guys in Cobra Kai and they have these. They'll have these weird stances. They'll do stuff like this. And they'll have this elbow up. We never raise an elbow up. Okay? 'Cause if I raise up an elbow, I'm giving you my ribs. So anytime you see them like this, you'll see them do this. This stance. That never. Here's the other tell is you see somebody who's setting up like this, and this wrist is extended like this. See that?
Right.
When you punch something, this has to be perfectly straight, right? Because if it's not, it's gonna bend and bust. Anybody who's hit a heavy bag knows if I'm not ready, I'm gonna double my wrist over. So when you see these people and they're in their fighting stance and their wrist is like that, even just that little tell, you can say, he doesn't really fight. Or they stand like this, they do that ready position, like this. We'll start like that. Yeah, these guys don't train, or they don't train that much. So that's the one thing. The other thing is in stick fighting, everything's stick based, right? I got these sticks coming at me and coming in action like this. And the stick is long, it's 26 to 28 inches long. So what you start to do is it's called retina retention, and you can see the end of the stick. And so they say we can see in slow motion because I can see when that's coming and respond to it. And it would just be like if we were to get into a situation right now, James, you had your hand up here by your wrist. Right. As soon as I see something like that, I'm going to move in and check my distance. That's right. And so I can feel right away if this guy knows his range and knows what he's going to execute, or if he's just.
So when you see someone that's just like perfect, where like he has no open areas, are you like Dragon Ball Z? I don't know if you watch Dragon Ball Z, but whenever they see someone with a huge power level, they're like.
It's the opposite. As soon as you see it, pow, you take the shot. So here, let me show you telekinesis. Can you see this pencil right here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna really balance here, and I'm gonna just try to do that.
Oh,
what?
Did you see that?
That's pretty crazy.
That's the Dillman thing, but actually I blew on it.
Damn it, Darryl.
Man, I was going to say, and you're not even your chi wasn't even key-eyeing or anything. I was like, that's how much control you had?
So when that's a good party trick, and they'll know that I'm a big karate guy. So get up and do something like that. It's kind of fun.
Well, damn, you had me fooled, man.
Okay, well, so before we wrap, Darryl, what do you have to? I mean, there's so many ways you can interpret fighting, and all the years of training, and training is infinite. Like you can use that in discussion, in debating with somebody, in the battle of the minds, in the battle of like. Life is always training and learning and teach. Like I read the sermon once that it's great to have someone below you, equal with you, and above you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get all of everything that life has to offer. So what would you leave? I like to have each guest leave our audience with something that they can put in their pockets for now, and then later in life they'll remember it and they'll pull it out of their pocket and they're like, oh yeah. Do you have anything like just advice on people trying to grow or get focused at something. Some people are lost and they just
Yeah, I don't know. I actually have a lot of sayings, but the one that I talk about most in the martial arts is by demanding excellence, we help others achieve excellence. And what I mean by that is, when we talked about training for your black belt. If I just look at you and say, yeah, you're doing it all right and you're fine, blah, 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 that's your karate. That's going to be your karate. But if I demand that it's done exactly right and it's harder and it takes you longer, but then you work, then you achieve. So as a karate instructor, our job is to put a goal out there for you to achieve and then hold you to it. And so once I've done that, you have achieved something great. And so just by being a good instructor, by demanding excellence, then people can become excellent. And then they do that too. They naturally will do that with everything that they do, because they understand that when you work hard and you achieve, you've accomplished something just on your own. And the personal satisfaction is much more than a color belt that you're wearing or
right.
something.
And it's not trophies and plus that person, other people, by seeing that, is leading by the utmost example that other people would see and be like, well, that's something to try to to look at and to understand. And also Sean Kanan talks about it, the whole give trophies to everybody for just for just showing up. And hey, I'm trying to get, and it's a lot of limp wristed. Not that there's anything wrong with me. My wrists are so skinny. I get it. Like there's nothing wrong with wearing pink shirts and being limp wristed and trendy mustaches. But if we're living in this everyone gets a trophy, self-entitled world. But I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah, it's funny about the trophies, because I think after you compete in something and get a lot of trophies, they become less valuable, unless you win like an Oscar or something, obviously. But you can see there's a bunch of karate trophies back there just in the back of my den. But I would tell you that when I moved to this house 30 years ago, we didn't want to bring all my trophies because I had literally hundreds of trophies. So I threw away all my trophies.
Wow.
That I had accumulated from whatever teenage years, and there were literally hundreds. Could have opened up your own trophy shop so that you could take them apart and rebuild, but I didn't want to mess with it, so we just tossed them all. Of course, the next day, the trash, even before the trash guy got there, they were gone. But so these are just some of the stray ones that I kept, or some of my kids have got, or something. So yeah, I agree with that. I like to help people accomplish something tangible, and then help them learn to use that in all their aspects of life.
Really awesome. That's a great word of advice for all.
Hey, I want to tell you guys, I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. You're obviously you're East Coast, I'm West Coast, but here we are in a Zoom meeting coming together with COVID.
Yeah, man, this was fun. We appreciate it very much. And just tell everyone where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Okay, well, my Facebook is Vidal Kempo. I add pretty much everyone there, although I am getting close to 5,000, so I'll have to start taking out some people. And that's just, they can contact me there, private message, and I usually get back with people. So, people ask me to sign autographs. I do that. I sell autographs for $20, and I'll mail them to you. I'll sign one for all your family members. And then the T-shirts, hit me up. I've got T-shirts, so yeah, I'd certainly be selling
that
some.
logo is so cool. I'm just looking at it on it's your cover picture.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be hitting you up for a T-shirt for sure.
Okay. Are you a large also?
Not large, by the way.
No, I'm a 2X.
Okay. I think I may have some of those.
Quite a bit bigger than limp-wristed Jim. All right, Darryl, this has been fun. We won't take up any more of your time. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you very much, man.
Okay.
Thanks, Al.